And if you self-identify as a people pleaser, this week is for you. So stay tuned and let's learn how to have presence over judgment. Welcome to week 2 of our December Wellness Challenge. We are looking at grace in action, this presence with boundaries. And let's find out how we can make the most out of our relationships and be able to set clear boundaries and presence to build relationships with ourselves and others and not break them down. Because here is the core truth. Grace does not mean that people are walking all over you. It means that you have a sense of presence with boundaries. It's presence with protection. And that's what we're going to explore this week. We're going to see that grace is active and not passive, that you can't control others and how they're going to perceive you. Spoiler alert, they're going to give you their worst selves. It's just what we do. The second we are judging, it's because we are judging ourselves. We're going to pause and learn where our power lives. It means that conflict doesn't mean failure, and accountability is always an act of grace. So we are actively using grace every time that we are present in a moment and truly owning our side of the street. Remember, I have a masterclass that talks all about and dives into our ability to own our side of the street. And grace is really the encompassment of actively being present and owning that side, having our individuation, and holding people accountable for how they interact in the space that we have together. I want to explore this idea about pausing as power. Many times in our counseling programs, we learn the power of silence. That moment of being able to be quiet and still really gets people's minds running. And in my interpersonal skills book and in our couples masterclass, I'll put the links in, you can see that, this power of neutral really starts when we are grounded and present, when we are able to take that time to pause and get curious about what's happening, and then we start labeling valid data points. It really shifts how a person is reacting to us. And it invites them to find a positive, loving response for not only themselves, but for you as well. Many times I'm asked, well, what about this? And what if they say this? And it's like they are right there active in their anxious mind. They're ready to predict every instance of a high stress situation. And here's the deal. You cannot control other people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You can only control your own. And so if somebody reacts, then let them. If somebody is going to come back and completely annihilate you because stonewalling is just their go-to move, let them. The more that you have that power of neutral, the more that they have to contend with what they're doing and how absurd it is when you zoom out and get a third-party perspective and you're like, what am I doing? Have you ever noticed, like, when you're ramping up and you're like, I don't even care. I'm so mad right now. I don't even care. I can see it. But here I go. Like, I want to regress and I'm going to go all in on my regression. We do it. We realize it when we're in coaching and therapy. My clients often are like, I know, I could hear, my inner Jen being like, this is terrible. But I was like, I don't care. I don't care. I want to do this. Like, I just want to be a child right now. And I want that adult figure to come in and nurture me. It's okay. We let go of the shame and guilt. We start to find awareness. We lose the judgment. And then we can choose what we want to do with it. And sometimes we want to jump in the tornado. And other times we're like, you know what? I just want to step back because I really value what's happening here, and I want to see it change for the better. I want to see it grow with me, not away from me. I want to explore really quickly this empathy without boundaries is actually self-abandonment. And a lot of times we hear like, I'm an empath. I have just so much deep emotion. And that is great. But if you do not take care of yourself, and you do not individuate to know what is your emotion and what is other people's emotion, and you don't draw that fine line to allow space for that experience, but to not take on all of that for yourself, it's called self abandonment. You are invoicing yourself. Remember, a couple weeks ago, we talked about invoicing and resentment. This is a sign, this is your sign that this is an invoice that you are holding. You're just collecting emotional debt, and you will use it against you every time you want to acquire something good for yourself. And now we're going to explore this kind of conflict equals failure. It does not equal failure. And accountability is an act of grace. I'm going to mix them together because they really do belong together. That you're going to have conflict in life. It's natural. Remember those universal constructs that I talk about, that the second anything gets triggered, you are constantly trying to protect this internal house of yours, which will cause conflict, which will cause defensiveness, protection, some preventative. It's going to cause these walls to go up. And that doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that you two don't belong together and that this is just so toxic. Let's just give up and throw in the towel. It means that accountability is an act of grace, that when you own your side of the street and you give the space for somebody else to kind of figure out what's going on with them, where you offer an opportunity, say, you know, I'm getting really triggered right now and I feel like I'm just being defensive. I don't think I can be actively involved in this conversation right now. I'm wondering what we can do. I'm wondering if we should like set a timer for 20 minutes, take some deep breaths and come back. Or if we want to maybe set a time where we are regularly checking in with each other. And so when these things come up, we can say, hey, let's put that on the schedule. Let's put that on for our agenda for when we have our weekly check-ins. And what you're doing is offer perceived control. You're diffusing, you're letting go of the defensiveness, and now you're owning that experience instead of dreading and building the invoices, because those little bickers are the bigger conversations we're not having, and this can be one of them. So let's go on a stroll through Europe, looking at those Swiss Alps and take on a European perspective. Today and this week, we're going to look at presence over appeasing, this idea of slower living and present and being in a present moment. In many ways, a part of what I took from my 64-day trip in Europe is this idea of presence. I loved working East Coast on my European adventure because it gave me time to finally realize how important my morning ritual is. So as I take on my own kind of list of the things that I learned when I was on my 64-day adventure in Europe, I really think about this mindset that I had and the routine that came out of it, that I really treasured my morning. I was so used as an anxious high achiever to wake up at 4 a.m., to start appointments at 6 a.m. I kid you not. 6 a.m. I started my appointments. And then I would, kind of go until like 4 or 5 o'clock. I was insane. I'm not even going to lie. I was insane. And it's not judgment. It is a fact. It does not equal my worth. It does not equal my outcomes, but it was there. It was really, really there. I was very, very mentally ill when it came to performance trauma. And then I took that chance. I took 64 days in Europe and I still did work. And I got to start at noon because of my 6 a.m. start time. So for what that's worth. But I really realized how much I enjoyed my morning and how it really set a tone for my day. And so when I came back from Europe, I came up with these kind of 5 things that I learned that I'm sharing with you this month. And I started to apply it in my day-to-day life. So I gave myself my mornings. I don't actually start until sometimes 10 a.m. on Mondays. It's a beautiful thing. And do I sit there and account for and invoice myself? Or, well, that is, that's how much money are you losing? No, I don't. Because do you know what I'm gaining? I'm gaining peace of mind. I'm gaining kind of an extra day from stopping early on Friday and starting late on Monday. I'm giving myself that grace period of being present and really owning what I want and how I want my business, my freedom, my purpose to be. The purpose of the empathy boundary matrix is to be able to hold both empathy and boundaries simultaneously. So think of a relationship where you struggle to maintain boundaries and then fill out this matrix. What I understand about them, what I need for myself, so their perspective, their feelings, their challenges, then your limits, needs, and non-negotiables. As you look at this, think about what I understand about them, what I need for myself. My mom is anxious and feels out of control when I don't respond immediately. I need to be available 24/7 for non-emergencies. But truly, when I look at this and I look at a both and statement, I can understand that their needs and my needs. So I can understand my mom feels anxious when I don't respond immediately, and I need to set boundaries around my availability that work for my mental health. So this week we have several activities, so go take a look at the worksheet and choose one that works for you. But what I really want you to look at is this empathy boundary matrix. And as always, we have a mantra for the week so that when you start to get into your self-compassion exercises or start to track and see what's going on through the week, remember this mantra. I am capable and am utilizing grace. Grace is building my relationships by showing up with compassion and then clarifying using empathy and boundaries. I am showing grace by having presence and protection. So let's get started. Go take a look at the worksheet, become a subscriber so you can get access to said worksheet. It's going to really change your life. These are the key principles that I use with my clients, the same activities that are rewiring their brain for lasting change. So go check it out, get started, comment, ask me questions. I am here to support you. All I want is to empower others to live happier, healthier, more purpose-driven lives. And this is one way that you can do it.